Hi. I ran out of time on the last video, so I'm going to do this in two sections. I'm going to do breastfeeding and then cloth diapering. So this is breastfeeding. We are today, February 25th, 2012 is my due date. And here he is. I'll just tilt the camera. Here he is, 4 weeks old, and we're doing great. When he was, sorry, adjusting camera again. Okay. When he was born at 36 weeks, obviously. And he was nice and big. He was 5 pounds, 14 ounces. Everything was great, except he didn't quite have his lungs figured out yet. So he had respiratory distress. So they took him to NICU almost right away. Probably half hour after he was born, he was headed to NICU because he had respiratory distress. He was grunting. He was going, trying to push against his lungs to force them open a bit. So he went on a CPAP machine for just to give some negative pressure against his lungs to help them fill up. And he was only on that for 16 hours. And by then he had it pretty much sorted. But because of that, we missed that magic first hour of breastfeeding because he was already fighting something. They didn't want him to have to deal with both, and it probably wouldn't have worked anyway. So we didn't breastfeed right away. And while he was in NICU on the CPAP machine, he wasn't breastfeeding either, because they wanted his lungs to be working 100% before he filled up his stomach. So basically he was on IV and not eating orally at all for 2 days. It was his second day that he came off the ventilator. He came off, not the ventilator, the CPAP. And they started to wean him off his IV, and he was able to go to breast. So it was a little slower getting started than it was with Haken. I wasn't expecting that, so I was kind of thrown off, and I was having to pump for the first 2 days to make sure that my milk did come in. So that was a little weird. And we're still trying to figure things out. He's a little lazy when it comes to opening his mouth wide enough. Excuse me. So sometimes we fight a little bit about getting latched on, but we eventually get it. And sometimes we don't fight at all, and sometimes he's real lazy and he doesn't want to open his mouth wide enough. Like sometimes we don't even get past his gums. He'll just put his lips on it, and it's like, that's not working, buddy. And I'm licking all over us. So we're still fighting with it a little bit, but we'll get there. And he is breastfeeding often, which I think is great. He's just newborn, so he needs to nurse a lot. In the evenings, he cluster feeds. It can be a small feeding followed a half hour later by another small feeding, or usually it's every hour or every half hour in the evening, starting at about 5:30 till maybe for 2 hours, maybe for 3, depends. And then he has a nice long nap, and I get the kitchen cleaned up and everything before we go to bed. So it's all working out that way. During the day, it's every 2 to 3 hours that he's breastfeeding. And he's fairly efficient, and my milk lets down great, so we're quick. It's maybe 20 to 30 minute feedings every 2 to 3 hours. So that's a big chunk of my day, yes, but we've got lots of growing to do, so that's good. Haken, my 16-month-old, if you didn't already know, he weaned at about 12 months because my milk dried up because I was pregnant. If I had known in hindsight, I would have tried much, much harder to keep my milk and to keep him breastfeeding. So if you're pregnant with number 2, still nursing number 1, try to keep your milk. Sometimes it's not going to happen. I wasn't drinking enough, I wasn't eating enough, and I was actually putting him off, like, because I was sick, I didn't feel like breastfeeding, blah, blah, blah. So my behavior contributed to him weaning. He didn't mind, he didn't even hardly notice. He just decided, I don't really need to do this, I can cuddle and get what I need. Besides, there's nothing here anymore anyways. So he didn't notice, he wasn't hurting at all. But now we are trying to encourage him very, very gently to start nursing again. Hopefully, I would love it if that worked out. If not, we got a good year in, so that's good. But it's healthy for him, and you know, there's no harm in it at all. It's good for him. And he's starting to show a little bit of sign of jealousy when Saxon is nursing. He'll come over and kind of, if he's grumpy and tired, he'll try to kind of push him away from me. So I think it would be much easier if I just brought him up on the couch and gave him the other side. That would be great. Plus, it's so healthy for him, so much better than cow's milk. Obviously, it's human milk for babies. So we're trying. I'm encouraging him just very gently when he's in a good mood, usually only when it's just him and me. And I'll say, do you want the milk gum? Why don't you put it in your mouth? And usually he smiles at me. He's like, just kind of unsure and shy about it. And he'll put his face right against it and just kind of rest his head on it. And usually he says, "Aw." So he has put it in his mouth like twice, but like he's acting just kind of unsure. He's not against it or anything, and he always puts his face against me, against my breast. So as long as he's not backing off against it or anything like that, then I'll just continue gently encouraging. If he takes it, great. If not, well, I tried. So yeah, so that's breastfeeding, and I know a lot of you probably think I'm crazy for trying to get my toddler to breastfeed again after having weaned, but no, that's what's working for us, and that's what we think is good, so I'm gonna try it. Anyways, yeah, that's breastfeeding at 4 weeks with a newborn, and it's going great. Alright, see you later.